Hi there, it's Alistair from Lazarus Training, and we're just putting out a little video now about tourniquets, more specifically improvised tourniquets. Now, on a lot of our training courses, we show the delegates how to use a tourniquet to stop a catastrophic bleed, a life-threatening bleed if you prefer, and they're commonly in first aid kits, and we use these on our hostile environments courses, our first person on scene program, and also a lot of our media courses. Now, to be honest with you, every workplace anywhere, or each of us as individuals, could get hold of tourniquets and be trained up in how to use them. But that's not normally the case. And whilst we all know that they're essential to stop someone bleeding to death, in events such as the terrorist attacks that Europe has experienced over the last few years, people have taken to try and improvise tourniquets. And whilst on our training courses we have a little look at improvised tourniquets, it's a very, very tricky area to get right and to make work. We've all got concepts such as using our belts, etc., but that doesn't often work very well. Now, to help combat this area, there's a device that's been brought out called the Tourni-Key. And the idea is that you can use some of your clothing, some of the materials you have with you, and use them to help fashion a tourniquet. But the bit that's always missing is the bit that you can wind to really put the pressure on. And that's where the Tourni-Key, and you can see probably why they're called the name, really comes into its own. Device sort of produced or designed here in the UK, and being pushed out for everybody and anybody to perhaps get hold of, so they're ready for that emergency situation. So let me show you how it works. Now, I already said you need to have some other material, some other things, and I've got my scarf here that I'm going to use. Now, we want it to be a nice wide band, and I'm going to go for the quite meaty part of the thigh. There's all sorts of opinions and some changes in where we apply tourniquets, but this is quite an easy spot, particularly for the layperson to use. So I'm kind of pulling it tight to begin with, and this is where the Tourni-Key comes in. What is missing in most improvised tourniquets is something to kind of bring the pressure on, to bring it tight. And the idea of the tourniquet is it fulfills that function. Quite simply, we put it in here and then we tie it into place. So far, so good. Now, one of the real life problems that occurs when people do try to improvise tourniquets is when they do that twisting that I've referred to a few times. It drags the casualty's skin and clothing into it. Now, the clothing, so be it. The skin is exceptionally painful. So, along with instructions, in the bag there's this little card. And the idea of the card is it can be sat underneath to try and stop the skin being grabbed. So, wrapped it round, I've put my tourniquet in, I've tied that so it's now secure, and all we now do is we twist this. And obviously in real life we twist it until the bleeding stops, but I'm conscious of George's comfort, so I'm not going to kind of really go for it. But the idea is that we can now tuck this underneath, and it secures itself. So that's nice and secure there. I can kind of tuck this stuff and get it out of the way. The bit of material underneath there, stopping it pinching his skin, and hopefully I've stopped what could be a potentially life-threatening bleed. So that's the Tourniquet, which is a product to help with improvising tourniquets. Obviously not perhaps good as a tourniquet, but there's plenty of other options available. And our plan is to post a series of more videos over the next week or so, showing you different types of commercially available tourniquets. And perhaps we'll return to the topic of improvised tourniquets amongst that series of videos. Hopefully you found the video useful. If you're actually after a tourniquet, well, we don't sell first aid kits, it allows us to be impartial, but you can get them from SP Services, and they've got an easy website, just Google for it, and they cost about £5 if I remember rightly. So something to consider. We've been carrying them around for a while. I've been through airport security for about 4 or 5 countries with it in my carry-on luggage, and nobody's batted an eyelid at it. So perhaps for a few pounds, if you're a bit worried, it's quite a good compromise option. If you've got any questions, post them in the comments below, or drop us an email and we'll do what we can to address those for them. Otherwise, watch out for the more videos coming, and we'll speak to you soon.